I'm here again with another interesting science lesson. My name is Ernest Ato Bentel. Kate, in the previous lesson, we talked about how substances change state. And today we are going to look at something that occurs around us all the time. Something that occurs around us all the time. My Kate, the topic for today is on cyclic events. Cyclic events. So today we are going to talk about cyclic events. Good. But before we begin, let's mark the assignment or homework you were given the last time on how substances change state. 1. Mention 3 states of matter, the 3 states of matter. So we have solid, liquid, and then gas. So these are the 3 states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. 2. Explain 2 ways matter can change state. Explain 2 ways matter can change state. So the first one is freezing, and it's a state at which liquid turns into a solid. Freezing is a state at which liquid turns into a solid. And then 2, melting or thawing is the state at which solid turns into liquid. In that lesson, we said that melting occurs in the presence of heat, and thawing occurs only to iced products or iced substances. So iced substances thaw into liquid, and other solid substances melt into liquid in the presence of heat. Kate, I believe you did the work and you had all the answers right. Very good. Now let's move to today's topic on cyclic events. Cyclic events. At the end of the lesson, you'll be able to explain what a cyclic event is. What a cyclic event is. And then to state 3 examples of cyclic events. State 3 examples of cyclic events. So kids, let's all pay attention and then go through the lesson successfully. And I believe at the end you'll be able to achieve all these objectives. Now Kate, what is a cyclic event? What is a cyclic event? It is an order of events that is repeated and again. It is an order of events that is repeated and again. Let's take cyclic. When we say something is cyclic, it's like this. It starts from a point, end at a point, and starts from the same point again, end at the same point again, like this. This is what we call cyclic. This is what we call cyclic. And we are saying cyclic event. When we talk about event is something that happens. Not that you were told it happened, but it happens, and you are also aware it happens. So an event that is repeated, something that happens, and that thing is repeated again and again and again. It happens, you see it, and it continues to happen all the time. That is what we call cyclic event. So let's look at this. You wake up in the morning, it happens. When you wake up, it's something that happens. It's an event that happens every morning. You wake up. Then what do? You go to school. And it happens. You always go to school. Your school bus comes for you, or your mommy or your dad drops you at school. So it happens. Then you close from school and you are back home. It happens. Your school bus takes you to the point they normally pick you, or mom or dad or your sibling will come and pick you from school. It also happens. And then when you go home, you do some house chores, learn, and then you sleep. And it also happens. Sleeping happens every night. So this event, these 4 events are cyclical. They are cyclic. You start and you end here, you start again, you end here every day. This happens every day. You wake up, go to school, back from school, sleep, you wake up. It happens every day. Now let's look at this too. When you go to school, this is your school. You go to school to learn. Then you are back from school. Every morning you go to school, you learn, you are back from school. Every morning you go to school, you learn, you are back from school. This happens every day. And it's an event. Event is something that happens, and it happens. You go to school every day. Apart from the holidays, you go to school every day. You learn. When you go to school, you learn. It's something that happens. Your English teacher will come, your science teacher will come, your math teacher will come, your creative art teacher will come, your history teacher will come. You learn at school every day. It happens. And then you close from school. It happens. So this is what children we call cyclic events. You start, you end, you start again, you end. It happens every time. And that is what we are going to talk about today. There are certain events in our environment that happens every day, the same as the way we go to school, learn, and back from school again. There are certain natural things in our environment that are cyclic. They happen every day. They start again, happen every day, and then it continues till we all one day leave this earth. So that is what we call cyclic. It goes around like this. It happens and then come back to the starting point. Happens. Good. Let's look at natural cyclic events. Something that happens always and continue to happen every day. The first one is day and night. It's natural. We don't control day. We don't control night. I don't remember there was a day that somebody said, no, there should be day for 1 week, no night. No, they are natural cyclic events. We don't have control over it. They are natural cyclic events, so day and night. So the occurrence of day and night is cyclical. So day comes, night comes, day comes, night comes, day comes, night comes. We go through this every day, every night. So day and night are cyclic events. And remember, event is something that happens. Day happens, night happens, and they are cyclical. It doesn't happen just once. No, it happens all the time, and that is why we call it cyclical. So let's look at how day and night occur. So Kate, the earth, this is the earth. We are all residing on the earth. So this is the African map. We have the African map on the earth, and we are located somewhere on the earth. The earth is going around the sun. This is the sun. This is the sun. The earth is going around the sun. And as the earth is going around the sun, the earth is also rotating on its axis. So you see the earth rotating. This African map, it will go and then come. To go. The earth is also rotating as the earth is also going around the sun. So because the earth is rotating on its axis, the earth is rotating. At some point, some part of the earth will be facing the sun, and that is what we call day. So this part is facing the sun. This part here does not get sunlight, so we call it night. If the earth was to be still without moving, day and night will not be cyclical. It will not be an example of a cyclic event, because some countries or some people on the earth will get day forever. Some people on the earth too will get night forever. But since the earth is rotating like this, and during its rotation, part faces the sun. The part facing the sun is called day. So we will wake up in the morning, the sun will rise, because that part, sun rises when our parts have started facing the sun. Then by afternoon around 12, we will face the sun properly. The weather will be very hot, and then that is what you call afternoon. Then afternoon, the earth will be moving away gradually from the sun, and by 6 o'clock getting to 6:30, we will move away from the sun, and we will come to this place, which is night. We will go and sleep, and then as it rotates, we will come back to the face of the sun again, and we get day. This happens every day. So day and night is an example of cyclic events. And day and night occur every 24 hours. We have 24 hours in a day. So we get 12 hours day, 12 hours sunlight, and then 12 hours night. So we have 24 hours a day. 12 hours we are facing the sun like this. And another 12 hours we are facing away from the sun. So we call it night. Good. When day comes, the night follows, and then back to day, and this continues. So day, night, day, night, day, night. So it's cyclic. You get day, you get night. You get day, during the day you go to school, you come back, night comes, you sleep, day will come again. That is how the world is, cyclic. So this is an example of cyclic events. So sunrise, that is what we call dawn, sunrise, morning. So by 6 a.m. you'll be facing the sun by 6 a.m. and then by 12 you'll be facing the sun squarely. Yeah, by 12 you call it midday or noon. So children, when you are interpreting time, or when you are saying time, when it is 12 o'clock, we say it is 12 midday or 12 noon. We don't have any time like 12 p.m. No. It is 12 midday or 12 noon. Then when it get to 12:01, then we can say 12 p.m. There we start the p.m. But when it is o'clock like this, 12 o'clock like this, we say it is midday or noon. But when it is 12:01, then we can say 12:01 p.m., 12 up to 6 p.m. They all follow p.m. So we say the p.m. from here. And then from 6 p.m., that's sunset. Then it means that the earth is facing away from the sun, or moving away from the sun. Then we begin the night. And then we get to 12 midnight. So when it is 12 o'clock in the night, we also say 12 midnight. We don't say 12 a.m. We say 12 midnight. So when it is 12:01, then we can say a.m. So the a.m. starts from 12, after 12 midnight to 6 to 11:59 a.m. in the morning. So day and night, day and night, day and night, they are cyclic events. Good. Then another natural cyclic event that happens in our environment is the dry and wet season. Right now it is raining small. We are still in the wet season. We are experiencing some rainfalls. So dry season, wet season, we don't have any control over it. It happens all the time. We enter into dry season and then wet season. Dry and wet seasons also occur in cycles. So we get dry season and then wet season. Dry season and then wet season. We start the dry season around December, getting to January the following year, coming to March. We experience dry season. And it occurs all the time. We move to dry, wet season, dry, wet season. So dry season follows wet season. These seasons occur every year. I don't believe there was a year we experienced dry season all through from 1st January to 31st December. No rainfall. I haven't seen one before ever since I was born. Because sometimes you experience wet and sometimes dry. They occur in cycle. Dry season, wet season occur in cycle. And what brings about the dry season and then the wet season? As I said, the earth is revolving, that is moving around the sun. And the earth moving around the sun brings about dry season and wet season. And when it comes to day and night, it is the earth rotating on its axis, bring day and night. One part will be facing the sun, another part will be facing away from the sun. But when we come to dry and wet season, it is the earth moving around the sun. As you see, moving around the sun brings dry season and wet season. So let's look at dry season. What happens during the dry season? Dry season is a period of little or no rainfall. Little or no rainfall. So look at the land. It's very dry. All the leaves of the plants have turned into brown. No water. So dry season is a period of little or no rainfall, as you see. Little or no rainfall. During the dry season, harmattan occurs. Around December, early January, you see harmattan. The air becomes very dry because the air around us, there's water vapor in the air that makes it moist for us. But during the dry season, because the environment is dry, all the water vapor is no more. So the air becomes very dry. And we all know what happens during the harmattan. You see that people will be using shea butter, and because within a short time you will see your body becoming white because of the dry air. So during the dry season, harmattan occurs. During the dry season, the weather becomes hot, dry and dusty. So this is what we experience. Dusty road during the dry season. Very dusty road. There's dust everywhere during the dry season. So if you live near a dusty road like this, you know the situation you go through all the time. Dusty, very dusty. The soil becomes dry during the dry season. So you see cracks all over. They are yearning for water. So the soil also becomes dry during the dry season. And then we also see bushfires in the dry season. We hear of bushfires in the dry season. Bushfires in the dry season. Good. So you see. Now let's get to the wet season. Wet season. This is the season in which we get heavy rainfalls. It is also called the rainy season. So during the wet season, we get a lot of rainfalls, and it is also called rainy season. And as I said, we are experiencing rains these days. During the wet season, there is much rainfall, which is good for most plant growth. So you see the plants here. When it rains, plants are happy because it helps them to grow well. So during the wet season, there is much rainfall, which is good for most plant growth. It's good for most plant growth. And then farmers grow crops during the wet season. Farmers also grow crops because the soil becomes soft. That helps plants to grow well. So farmers also do a lot of planting during the wet season. And can you recognize the plant here? They are maize. They are planting maize. So this is a maize plant. Good. And then one disadvantage, one bad thing we experience during the wet season. In the dry season, lot of dust. But in the wet season to floods, we experience floods. And every year in Ghana here, anytime it rains, we experience this kind of problem, floods everywhere, floods. So that is one bad thing we experience every year during the wet season. Sometimes people become homeless. Bridges and roads get destroyed during the wet season. So this is one of the biggest problems we face during the wet season, floods. So Kate, make sure you manage your rubbish very well. Don't throw them in the gutters and anywhere you like. Just collect them at one place, and those who collect them will come and dispose it very well. Our own actions bring these problems every year, floods. So let's all try and avoid that during the wet season. Now the cultivation of maize. We saw the farmer there planting maize. Maize is also a plant that is cultivated in a year, matures in a year. So it also follows a cycle. Maize planting follow a cycle. So let's go through it. The planting material for maize is the seed. That's what we plant to get maize. That's the seeds. So we plant the seeds, and these are the seeds. So we either say maize or corn. Children, we are learning English from Britain. So Britain, they say maize. When you go to America, they say corn. It's the same thing. But we learn British English, so we normally say maize. So the planting material for maize plant is seed. And these are seeds. The seeds must be dried and planted in a good soil. We have different types of soil: sandy soil, loamy soil, clay, silt. So it must be planted in a good soil so that it will grow well. And then it takes about 90 to 120 days to mature after sowing. So if I sow a maize, it will take 90 to 120 days to mature. So that means about 3 to 4 months to mature. So the stage 1 in maize cultivation, the first stage is that a good seed is planted in good soil. So I'll put my maize here, and then I'll cover it. This is a good soil. We call it black soil, good soil, and then I'll water it. So this is the first stage. It's a cycle. Maize planting is also one of the examples of cyclic events, and that is what we are going through. This is the first stage. A good seed is planted in a good soil, and that is what we have done. So this is the seed we plant, we cover it, and then we water. This is the first stage. Then after some time it will start germinating. The seed germinates and the shoot. This is what we call the shoot. And this is the shoot here. This is the shoot. So the seed germinates and the shoot grows up towards sunlight. So there is sun. So they grow towards the sunlight. They grow towards that. This is the second stage in the cycle. Germination. Second stage. After sowing, stage 2 is germination. Good. And then the plant grows bigger and bigger as the leaves get sunlight and air for energy. You see that, you know that plants also prepare their own food. They use the sunlight, they use water, they use air to prepare their food. So as the leaves, when you are at home, mommy prepares our food. If mommy is not around, our big sisters prepare food. Sometimes daddies also prepare food. So the food preparation is normally done by our mommies. The same way, when you take plants, the leaves prepare food for the plant to eat and to grow bigger and stronger. So as the leaves get sunlight and energy, they prepare food and the plant keeps on growing. You see that the plant is growing, then it will become bigger. It will become bigger. So as they get sunlight and air, the maize plant gets energy to prepare more food to grow. Then as the plant grows, the plant begins to grow ears of maize. This is what we call ear of maize. This is an ear of maize. Ear of maize. So as they grow, so we have 3 ears of maize here. 1, 2, 3. So as the plant grows, they begin to grow ears of maize. That is the third stage in the cycle. And then the ears of maize grow bigger and bigger and finally mature. So this is the matured maize. This is the matured maize. And when the maize matures, what do? We harvest them. The matured maize is harvested. The matured maize is harvested. After harvesting, what do? The maize plants turn brown and start to die. It is coming to the end of the cycle. So it turns brown and it begins to die. And then some of the maize can be stored and planted the following year, and the cycle of events continues. So Kate, you see, the maize planting is also cyclical, because most of the food we eat these days, we get most of them from maize. The porridge, the banku, the kenke, whether fancy kenke or Accra kenke, the roasted maize, the boiled maize. You see, Ghanaians, maize is one of the food staples that we use so much. So the planting of maize pass through cycle, because if you plant maize and when it matures, we can't plant again, like you will die, because we use maize a lot. So the planting is cyclic. You plant, it matures, you harvest, you plant again, so that always there is maize in the system for us to eat. Good. Kids, we are almost at the end of the lesson. Today we looked at cyclic events. And we said cyclic event is something that happens, and cyclic means that it starts and ends, starts again and ends, starts again and ends. Good. So we talked about day and night being cyclical, day and night. We also talked about dry season, wet season being cyclical. So day, we get day and then night, then dry, wet season. They are all natural cyclic events. We also looked at the cultivation of maize, which is also cyclic. So this is the seed. We plant the seed will germinate, it will sprout, and then we get the seedling. As it gets sunlight, it prepares food, and then the plant begins to grow bigger and stronger. It develops ears of maize, it matures, we harvest, and then we keep the seed and plant again. So it's cyclical. Good. Now kids, as usual, let's test ourselves before we leave. 1. Order of events that is repeated and again is called order of events that is repeated and again is called this one. You go to school, you learn, you come back, you go to, how do we call this? You have seasons, movements, cyclic events. Great. The answer is cyclic events. Very good. 2. During the period of the dry season, there is little or no. During the period of the dry season, there is little or no. So you have rainfall, you have harmattan, you have air. So there is little or no what during the dry season. Good. Rainfall. So during the period of the dry season, there is little or no rainfall. 3. Day and night occur every dash hours. Day and night occur every dash hours. So you have 20, 24, 28. So how many hours do we have in a day that we get day and night in it. 20, 24, 28. Good. 24. So day and night occur every 24 hours. The cyclical. 4. We experience floods during the dash season. We experience floods during the dash season. So when do we see floods? Dry, wet, or harmattan? Good. Wet. We see floods during the wet season. And then 5. Which of the following seasons is good for plant growth? Which of the following seasons is good for plant growth? So we have dry, we have wet, we have flood. Good. Wet season. The wet season is good for plant growth. Okay, you have all done well. You have all done well. As usual, I can't leave you like that. Let's take this assignment and then try our hands on. 1. What is a cyclic event? What is a cyclic event? 2. Give 2 examples of cyclic events and their time periods. Give 2 examples of cyclic events and their time periods. So let me give you one clue of the question 2. So if you say day and night, how many times in a day do we experience day and night? How many hours in a day do we experience day and night? That is the time period. Good. So I'll give you some few minutes to put this assignment down. You are welcome back, kids. I believe you were able to write the assignment down. Today we looked at cyclic events, things that happen always and is repeated again and again. We talked about day and night, the wet and the dry season, as well as the planting of maize. I believe you have learned a lot and you have enjoyed the lesson as well. Until I come your way again with another interesting science lesson, this is your teacher, Ernest Atto Benzel. Bye-bye.